Hello my darlings, it's Chanel and welcome to the end of the year best books of 2025 video. So in this video I will tell you all of my 5-star reads that I read this year and a few honorable mentions as well. Without much further ado, let's just get into it. So this year, I believe the stats haven't been properly released yet because it's not the end of the year. It's just 2 days before Christmas, if you wanted to know why this was going on. I'm going out for a Christmas lunch. So this year I read in full 464 books, which equated to 104,381 pages. I believe that Goodreads will have a different number. That includes all the books I DNF. So as you can see, I do DNF quite a lot. Life is short and I want to read the good shit. So yes, I did read 464 books this year. I read from all genres. I am an all genres reader, but the top 5 genres I read from were horror at 22%. This is my first year really getting into horror and I got into it. Followed by fantasy at 14.9, nonfiction at 11.2. Normally, nonfiction equates to 25% of my reading. But I think having been such a huge nonfiction reader my whole life, eventually you reach a point where you get fatigued by certain books or certain genres in the nonfiction category. So you just don't pick up books as much, or the ones that you pick up feel very much same, a reiteration, they feel redundant. You've already read ad nauseum about that topic and this isn't offering anything new, so you DNF. So I think that's why nonfiction has taken a hit this year for the first time. We then have graphic novels at 9.7. This includes comics. I just bunched them up together. And then litfic with 9.1. So I'm not surprised that those are my top genres. I would have thought sci-fi might have been in there, but graphic novel encapsulates a lot of genres within that. So I don't subgenre. I don't go, oh, horror graphic novels and sci-fi graphic novels. I just go graphic novels. Out of all the genres I read, the one that delivered me the most 5-star books was fantasy. And fantasy is my favorite. You wouldn't believe that by seeing that genre is top, but fantasy is the genre that I read the most of as a child. And it still delivers me my favorite reads, but horror and nonfic also gave me a lot of 5 stars. Out of all the books I read, 24.1% were new releases. So generally I have been more of a backlist reader, but I also think as time goes on, those percentages will change because I will have already read the majority of the backlist that I want to read and I'll instead be reading things as they come out. I'll put formats of the books I read up here as well as acquisitions. Generally, I read the most ebooks because that's what is most readily available at my library, and the library is where I source the majority of my books. I am first and foremost a library hoe for show. Now with publishers, I thought I'd tell you my top 3. So the top 3 publishers that I ended up picking the most books from. In first place was Penguin Random House. So obviously what they put out are things that appeal to me. But my second was self-published. So that means that the authors have published the books themselves. And then in third place was indie. So these are the smaller independent publishers that don't belong to the big conglomerates. And I'm really happy with that because that is something that I do purposefully try to do, to spotlight self-published and indie authors because they just don't have the promo budgets. You know, they're not going to, they can't compete with the big houses. So I'm really glad that they did make my top 3 of the books that I picked up. I'll also do a quick shout out to my most read authors this year. So these are authors I picked up multiple books from. There's Kanehito Yamada, Matt Dinnerman, Joe Abercrombie, and Jack Scully. My average rating for this year was 3.13. It's not as high as I would hope. So I would love to get that to 3.5, meaning that I pretty much really enjoyed the majority of the books I read. And the way that I'm hoping to obtain that higher average is by doing less themed vlogs where I'm picking books to suit a certain thing rather than picking books that I believe I will really, really like personally. So more leisure, mood reading, less themed vlogs should get that percentage right up because I don't DNF books for themed vlogs. I only do that for the mood reading. If there's any other graphics that I think are pertinent, I will put them up on the screen. But now let's get to the good shit. So I am just going to give you a 1-sentence taste sample appetizer of each of these books because there are a lot since I did read 464 books this year. That being said, The percentage of those books being 5 stars is also lower than I would like, but 5 stars is that very elusive rating for me where it's really completely subjective. It is not about the quality of the writing, the characters, the plot. It is just this elusive feeling of, I just really fucking love this. I had a great time. I was immersed. 5-star books are those sorts of books that I do not want to put down. And they, like I said, are across all genres. It's not some quantifiable characteristic that I can pinpoint, oh, this is what causes a 5-star. It is random, in my opinion, which books end up just having that feeling for me that are unputdownable and that I absolutely ravenously devour. But let's start with the Let's start with the honourable mentions. So these are the books that I rated 4.75. They were fantastic, excellent, but they just didn't have that feeling, that je ne sais quoi. So first up, there's Monsters by Emerald Fennell. A dark, unsettling dive into human cruelty and hidden monstrosities witnessed through the eyes of children. The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. A group of criminal misfits are forced to team up and save the day. Carl's Doomsday Scenario by Matt Dinnerman. A man and his cat are forced to play a deadly intergalactic game. Immaculate Conception by Lingling Huang. Codependent Best Friends and the Art They Create. Like You Have a Choice by Ivan Nikolai. Short Stories of Weird Melburnians. The Har by David Sodergren. A haunting atmospheric tale of developers and Granny's foggy boyfriend. Hellmouth by Giles Christian. A brutal quest through the maw of hell. And The Irresistible Urge to Fall for Your Enemy by Brigitte Knightley. Enemies to lovers romance with a dash of terminal illness. And now we're going on to my 5-star reads. I will save my top 10 best reads for last. It was very difficult to choose a top 10. It's arbitrary. Don't hold me to it. You know what I mean? So this year I read a total of 29 5-star books. So 29 out of 464. You see what I mean? It's a bit meager, it's a bit measly. But first off, we have Bake Joy by Kim Joy, a colourful, heartwarming guide to baking, happiness and whimsy. Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. Love and vet visits collide in a tender, bittersweet romance. The Frozen River by Ariel Lawhon. The Baddest Midwife in History. Wild Dark Shore by Charlotte McConaughey. Poetic environmental fiction exploring loss and survival. The Burrow by Melanie Chang. A glimpse into an Australian family dealing with grief and lost bunnies. A Little Hatred by Joe Abercrombie. Epic fantasy of war, ambition, and morally grey characters. Biblioflora by Jean-Baptiste or Gian Baptiste. Botanical Bliss. Universe in Verse by Maria Popova. Poetry and science entwined in meditations on life and the cosmos. The Deal of a Lifetime by Frederick Buckman. A moving tale of choice, regret, and second chances. The Fall Risk by Abby Jimenez. A rom-com with humour, stalkers, and forced proximity. The Hike by Drew Magari. A surreal, dark-up journey through a terrifying wilderness. The Knight and the Butcherbird by Alex E. Harrow. Magical historical fantasy of Love Me in Any Form. Red Rabbit by Alex Grecian. Wild West epic with demon and ghosts. Rune by Carlos Sanchez. A pastel wonderland of goats and Studio Ghibli vibes. Entity by Meg Smitherman. Horny alien sexbots. Death and the Gardener by Georgy Gospodinov. Philosophical and poetic reflections on mortality and gardening. The Sleepless by Jen Williams. One Girl and Two Dudes in One Body. Gods and Monsters also feature. Triketra by Kirsten McDermott. Snow White Grew Up, much to her husband's distaste. The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow. I Will Love You in Every Lifetime. And now we are down to my top 10. 10th place we have Silver Cloak by L.K. Stephen. A BDSM fantasy with messy bisexuals. Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. Wholesome disability romance. The Flying Nun by Cody Goodfellow. A Nun Goes God Mode. The Raven Scholar by Antonia Hodgson. Animal Houses with Murder, Academia, and Dark Secrets. Welcome to the Deep Estate by Kevin Kane. Hilarious satire of paranormal government agencies, and now we're here in the top 5. And in the 5th, 4th, and 3rd place are 3 installments of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series by Matt Dinnerman. We have The Butcher's Masquerade, The Eye of the Bedlam Bride, and This Inevitable Ruin. So this is a lit RPG fantasy with a dude and his princess cat, saving the day and racking up insanely high body counts. In 2nd place was The Phantom's Tollbooth by Norton Juster, whimsical allegorical journey through a fantastical, lesson-filled world. And in 1st place, my favourite book of 2025 was an itty-bitty novella called For He Can Creep by Siobhan Carroll. Kitty goes paw to paw with Satan to save his poet. Those were all of my favourite books from 2025. I hope next year's list is even longer. Let me know down below what your favourite book of 2025 was, and if you don't know what to comment, leave me a red heart emoji. And until next time, stay wild, Star Child.